Hey guys, and welcome back to the Outer Rim. I'm Gabe Green, and today, with help of my fellow Outer Rim admins, we will be talking about the latest episode of season 2 of The Mandalorian. And I'm joined by both Drew and James, and sadly, neither one of them saw fit to show us their faces today. I mean, we expect it from Drew, but I guess he's just a bad influence now, and James is hiding too.
Drew messaged me and said like all the cool people were doing it. So
Yeah, I just tried turning him to the dark side of the Force, honestly.
It's sad. So today we're going to be talking about which chapter? This is chapter 13, right? Chapter 13, I think. Yes.
yes,
Chapter 13 of The Mandalorian, which is called The Jedi. This one was written and directed by Dave Filoni, and so here we have Mando follows Bo-Katan's lead to the planet Corvus, and there he meets Ahsoka, and in exchange for her training Baby Yoda, he joins her in her war against the local Imperial magistrate, or Imperial adjacent, or whatever faction she's involved in, the Thrawn faction. Hey, Thrawn! Yay! What about that? So there is a So as it appears, there is a lot going on here. Let's start with the big thing, Ahsoka. What y'all think? Drew first.
First off, before I watched the episode, me and one of my friends did the Disney Plus watch party, and we did this really long like Clone Wars marathon of like episodes with Ahsoka and Bo-Katan to like really just hype up this episode. Because obviously like everyone knew that this was the episode that we were going to see Ahsoka. So we were just like really anticipating it, and just seeing her on screen in live action for the first time was just crazy. I had like chills almost the entire episode, because it's like never in my life would I have thought that we'd reach this point in live action Star Wars. And so just like seeing all of this history of like my childhood, or like just growing up, and seeing all of this like just come to life on screen was amazing in my opinion. With that being said, I was actually really pleased with Dawson's performance. I was like really worried when like they were talking about like doing a live action Ahsoka, because Ahsoka's like such a beloved character, and she's very unique in the way that she kind of like talks, and like these mannerisms, and even like her body language and stuff. It's just like very unique and fits very well in like the stylized like Clone Wars and Rebels. So I was really worried, like, how are they going to be able to pull this off in live action? And just the simplest thing that was in the episode that I noticed is like the way Dawson smiled was just like the Clone Wars Ahsoka. And like just seeing that, I was like, wow, this is Ahsoka. Like, this is perfect.
Yeah, she's always got like this knowing smirk, like giving Mando side eye all the time, and it's kind of adorable. What about you, James? How'd you feel? Did you think the translation was successful?
yeah, I really did. You and I have had extensive conversations on our thoughts on like live or animation to live action, or really just in general, like different actors and actresses taking on previously established characters and stuff. And all one would have to do is go and look at my or like listen to our episodes over the Clone Wars and Rebels and stuff to really find out how much I love this character, and how much like for me this isn't like the additional side Star Wars content. Like Clone Wars and Rebels is just as like just as much a part of Star Wars as the mainline episodes are for me at this point. So this was a very major like top 10 Star Wars character of all time for me, like being recast in a way, you know. So and I'm with Drew. Like after so many seasons of her, it's the character becomes so much more than just like the writing on the script that's being read. It's in the performance. It's in all of these little things that Ashley Eckstein gave it, and it's in all of these little things that the animators brought to it. So it's not just about trying to write the character consistently, but it is about trying to, because my love for her is not just her personality, but the way she talks. There's a way that I think Eckstein really takes the character from this very naive, childish person to just listening to the vocal performance by the end of Rebels. It's this whole journey, and so much of it was told by the performance. So I was just really, I was nervous. I wasn't super worried, but I was definitely nervous about how much could be captured, how much of that could be recaptured for live action with a different actress. But I really enjoyed it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It's only a single episode, um, and there weren't like these huge dramatic moments that she had to sell. And so I think it was a good soft introduction to her character, even though she's in it a lot. But it's very much just like these very like normal conversational scenes, and for all of that, I really didn't feel any sort of um, discontinuity between her before and who we're seeing now in terms of the performance. And Dawson wears the makeup incredibly well. Like she looks fantastic.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, by the end of it, I was very happy to see the way it was able to be translated.
Yeah, Dawson was my preferred fan cast for many years. I can't take credit. I saw it somewhere online. I was like, and it just clicked for me that she felt so right. And so when it happened, it's kind of like with Benedict Cumberbatch being fan cast as Doctor Strange years before it ever actually happened. When it happened, like, yep, that makes sense. And so I was excited for this. And it took me a little bit to warm up to her when she first came on screen, because she comes on screen, she's very scary, very violent, like a much darker version of the character than we're used to. And it was a little moment that kind of finally warmed me up to her and won me over, was when after her and Mando have their little scrap, it's like, I need to talk to you. I hope it's about him. And she just kind of walks by him. And it was just this perfect little Ahsoka thing. Like, it's so Ahsoka, her delivery and just that little moment. And it completely warmed me up to her performance. And, from there on out, it felt like this is the same character.
Mm-hmm.
Which actually brings me to a new segment that we're gonna be doing at least this week, which would be our favorite Ahsoka moment of this episode, and that would have been mine, because that was the moment that I knew that, okay, this is actually Ahsoka. This is not just an actress in orange paint, doing things with white lightsabers. It felt like the character. So, let's go you first, James. What would be your favorite moment from her in this episode?
I think I really liked. Well, man, there's a few I could choose from. I really liked her duel. The sound of lightsaber against Beskar is now like added to the canon of amazing Star Wars sounds. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so that whole, and then like it was very much a here's one for the fans. But like whenever she flips the hilt to the backhanded way,
Mm-hmm.
you're like this.
Oh
Oh
yeah.
man, I love this. But I really liked the initial moment. Where she's trying to teach uh, Mando how to connect with him. Just there, seeing her in this kind of teaching role now. After I mean, she was that. There's very much a mentor, authority figure presence that she has in Rebels. But seeing that again here is that may have been my favorite, just because you can tell the episode is this. It's aware of her legacy, and putting her in this position where now she's kind of this wizened figure who's here to help Mando. I liked a lot.
Yeah, when he says like, "All right, kid," and she like gets really close behind him, Grogu.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With that smile on her face.
Oh
Uh,
man.
what about you, Drew?
Yeah, like James was saying, there's so many different moments in the episode that I could like pick from. Um, I will say though, one thing I really liked was all the references that she made, um, to like different characters and like events in the past. Like she mentioned Yoda, which was like really cool to see. And then what was the other part?
I mean, just
Anakin,
all of these
mentioning the
like
Jedi
these
Knight who fell.
references to Anakin, the fall of the Jedi
Yeah,
Temple,
yeah,
Coruscant, and
yeah. Just
as a fan of the prequels and everything. But man, this is awesome.
Yeah, like I just love seeing that kind of legacy that she has, and also just like the Star Wars universe has, and like it was like such a simple like way to like reference all of it, but it just like works so perfectly in the episode, in my opinion.
Yeah, so there's a lot, a whole lot going on in this episode. We're probably going to go a little longer than we usually do with this review, but I do want to talk about where we find Ahsoka as a character because I found it very interesting and possibly a little concerning. Like just like when we left her, like the last time we saw her, just like as far as on tape was season 7 of the Clone Wars, and we left her. That season kind of ended, or at least the Ahsoka's walkabout arc ended with her kind of rediscovering the true ideal of what it meant to be a Jedi. To help help people in need, whoever they were, wherever you found them. And like she was becoming disillusioned with the fact that the Jedi were getting so consumed with the being soldiers of the Republic and the galactic conflict that they were forgetting to help normal people like the Martinez sisters. Um, and she kind of commits to be the best non Jedi she can be and help whoever needs help. And then when we open this episode, she's kind of she doesn't seem to actually be all that concerned about the people in need. Like her concern for the citizens suffering under the magistrate only goes so far as she doesn't want anyone to be directly hurt by her actions. But she also says like if you give me the information, I will leave. You can continue torturing and pillaging these people to your heart's content. Like it felt like she was coming she was becoming what the Jedi were towards the end of the prequels, where she was losing sight of actually helping people and it was only concerned about the mission, the goal, the galactic conflict of Thrawn. Obviously, this is only a single episode, and I don't even know if Filoni was even thinking that, but it felt a little wrong considering the last time we saw her and like what the arc she went through, that she's now so focused on the mission and seems to have very little thought for the normal people that need the help of a Jedi.
Yeah, I wonder, like, honestly, if Filoni hadn't written this, I think I would genuinely be like, I wonder how much they're bringing her in because they know it's an easy way to please fans and how much they really understand the character. But because like she has been just Filoni's like his best. I mean, I really love most of his characters, but like this is what you point to when you point to like Filoni's contribution to the overall lore, and he understands the character so well. I'm much more willing to suspend any sort of apprehension until we get to see more. Um, I'm thinking that we've spoilers for the end of Rebels, with where that ends, and this idea that she's about to go on a journey to find Ezra, and then here we don't hear Ezra, and I'm assuming it's because there's been some sort of event that's happened that we're not aware about or aware of, and I'm thinking that we're gonna have some reveal that's gonna show us why she may be more of a hardened kind of Jedi at this point, or not Jedi, but Force user.
Yeah,
but there's just some. I mean, it's been kind of the theme of all of these connections to the previous shows, is it's connections, but it's not the natural next step. It's 2 steps after what we've last seen, and they're hiding that first step taken between what we last saw in the shows, whether it's seeing Bo-Katan, seeing the Darksaber, where Ahsoka is now. Like we're jumping forward and we're skipping the thing that got us here, and so it very much feels like there are reveals that are going to be coming, and I'm betting that just because I've always loved, especially with Ahsoka, I've always loved what Filoni's done with the character, that I have no doubt that in some way he's going to show why. Like, I know what I'm doing with her. I know where I'm going. This all makes sense.
Yeah, it really makes you wonder, like, what is her involvement going to be in this show? Or are they setting up are we finally getting around to the Rebels sequel series? Is she just here to, as a nod to the fans and as a stepping stone to that series? Because, like, we'll get to Thrawn later, but like I don't see Thrawn fitting into the Mandalorian. So that and Ahsoka, and just how different she feels from, and Sabine's nowhere to be seen. Where's Ezra? Like, there's a lot of questions that I don't see the Mandalorian being able to answer. So my guess would be spin-off or something. Like, I don't like the Mandalorian has never been a deep character drama, and you need some deep character drama chops to to deal properly with the character like Ahsoka, I think. So yeah, I kind of hope they'll do something. It'll move off into a different show.
Yeah. I definitely feel like over these last episodes, we've had the Bo-Katan revealing what's going on with Mandalore and her pursuit of the Darksaber. We've got allusions to like cloning and extracting midichlorians from blood and whatever these new dark troopers are going to be. And now
Also
Ahsoka...
the possible rise of the First Order with the pilot saying something's happening out here.
Yeah, and this heavy allusion to something different that people aren't really talking about. And then, Ahsoka, who's out there looking for Thrawn. There's a lot there, and it does actually, because I've heard this said before, and I think these last 3 episodes are making the idea more credible, which is there. Oh, and Boba's out there. We've yet to return to that.
Yeah.
So man, they really are setting up a lot of threats in this season. Like, and each threat, like some of those threats could be combined, but that's like 2.5 or possibly 3 different shows.
Yeah, so it wouldn't surprise me.
Gel.
Somebody said they may be doing something CW-esque. I hope even as somebody who really liked some of those shows, I hope that if this is what they're doing here, and they really are using this as like the central hub to like spin off these other shows from, I really hope that they're able to maintain a level of quality that we'd all hope they'd be able to, because it definitely feels like, based off of the success of the Mandalorian, and we know we've got the Obi-Wan show and we've got Cassian and stuff, it feels like, a lot of people are saying it's only a matter of time before we get the next set of trilogies. I'm thinking that we may really see at least a decade before we do go back to those movies, because if this continues to work,
movies?
like a new set of trilogy.
Oh, don't forget the High Republic is also happening.
Yeah, exactly. So there's all of these other efforts going on right now, and I could see that if the additional shows continue to succeed in the way that the Mandalorian has, I think Star Wars is going to live in the TV realm for quite a long time, and so maybe we'll be at, like, years from now when we have all these various shows, you might trace them all back to different seeds planted here.
Yeah,
Maybe.
I could definitely see that. The reason why I say that is because Disney recently said that they're shifting a lot of their focus to streaming now. And also, another thing, we also have like more live action shows already on the way that like we know of. I can't remember what her name is, but whenever they announced the Bad Batch show, they announced a new live action show, and then also the Taika Waititi film.
And there's also another film as well from another very like unknown director that was in development. Plus, yeah, Cassidy Andor, and then like the female-driven show that was announced.
The
Russian doll creator. There's
that's the one I was referencing.
Yeah. So, and I don't. We really don't have time to get into this. I don't really want to discuss. I just want to get you guys' read on it. When she says, she has the line, he's formed a strong attachment to you. I cannot train him. His attachment makes him vulnerable to his fears, his anger. I've seen what such feelings can do to a fully trained Jedi Knight, to the best of us. I will not start this child down that path. Better to let his abilities fade. For me, when I first heard that, I'm like, okay, Mace Windu, like, where'd you come from? Like, it felt like she was just quoting the Jedi dogma spiel. And again, this is like Ahsoka being in a far darker, angrier place. This feels like something that cannot actually be resolved on the Mandalorian show. Maybe it's like, what is this Filoni buying into all the Jedi, all the Jedi attachments are bad stuff? I don't think so, because Rebels is about a Jedi family, for crying out loud. And I feel like Ahsoka should know better with all she's been through, but it just felt so maybe he wasn't trying to say that, but just the way it read and like looking at that on the paper, that feels like it's Mace Windu or Yoda in the prequel era, what they would say about attachments and how dangerous they are, rather than what I feel all the rest of Star Wars has been saying about how no love is good. Look at the sequel trilogy, and it's all about the friendships and whatnot. So I don't know. It just read as odd. Like, did y'all have that kind of allergic reaction that I did, or did y'all kind of think it was something else?
Um, for myself, like I was disappointed that Ahsoka felt that way. But at the same time, like honestly, I can understand it, just because Anakin was her master. She was very close to Anakin, and she felt, you know, she saw like what he did in a sense, and like she felt it, and just seeing like someone that you are that close to fall and become evil, like fall to the dark side and everything. I'm sure that was like pretty traumatizing for her.
Mm-hmm.
So in a way, like I can understand kind of where she's coming from, especially because I don't know, it's always been kind of alluded to, like even in Legends material, that whatever Yoda's species is are very powerful in the Force.
Mm-hmm.
And seeing as Grogu is a child and he lifted the Rhino in the first season, I'd imagine he's very strong in the Force as well. So I can kind of see where she's coming from. And also, like another thing, in season one, we also saw Grogu, force choking
Mm-hmm.
Cara Dune. And so I think she could see, like, the potential. Okay, like if he fell to the dark side, like this would be really bad. So I can
Mm-hmm.
understand where she's coming from, even though I don't really agree with how she's approaching it.
Yeah, for me, so I didn't actually get your reading initially. Like my first watch, during that moment, she's referencing Anakin. I interpret it purely on the emotional level. Like the last canonical appearance of Ahsoka outside of the epilogue in Rebels, I believe is her duel with Vader, right?
That and
It,
World Between Worlds, which is where she's comes
oh,
directly
that's
out of
right.
the duel.
That's right. That's right. So the last these last big moments kind of revolve around um, this climactic um, confrontation with the person that she's talking about, with this person who fell, and especially with her last moments in the temple talking to Anakin. She's very much aware of whenever Anakin talks about his own frustrations and things, and she kind of gives him the I know, very much alluding to the fact that she's aware of he and Padme. So she's very much feels like in the know of his fall and what happened. And so I didn't immediately go into like the larger thematic implications of what that these statements about training and attachment means. I was just the kind of gut reaction, like, yeah, we're 5 years, we're only 5 years after this last huge conflict that largely stemmed from the fall of her master, because of this attachment and his fear. Um, so it all tracked initially, but I don't think it it's to the point though where your concerns can be dismissed out of hand, though, because the language used is also very intentional. She's talking about fear and attachment, and like this is the reason it sound like your mind goes to, or your mind went to Mace, is because like this is how they spoke. This is the Jedi dogma.
I
And
sense
so
much fear in you.
yeah, and so you've you got, and Anakin talking about like attachments are forbidden and all of it. Like it's very much intentional use of like the same terminology. um so I don't think it's by accident. But again, I also, like whenever so many people who love Star Wars but are kind of just in the movies, I tried to not be like, oh, you don't understand the full story, but there is this general sense that like, oh no, the Jedi were good, like even despite their flaws that I'd say are very present just in the films themselves, there's still this like, oh no, the Jedi are fine. But with the Clone Wars and Rebels, and then finally, the Last Jedi really bringing it to the films, um, there the problems of the Jedi are so interwoven now in the fabric of the overall franchise, and Filoni has been a part, like such a massive part of all of this, that it's really hard for me to believe that he is now like as you put it, like that he's bought into the Jedi dogma, that he's the one saying, hashtag the Jedi were right. Uh, so again, I'm because he's given me reason to have so much faith in how like in his handling of characters, especially the ones that he's created. Uh, I'm making the same for just her general attitude and demeanor, being kind of darker this time around. I'm making the assumption that there are things that we don't know yet, and that a lot of this, maybe she's using going back to this language because it's just what's familiar to her. Like maybe she has a very real human kind of fear of like, I don't want to be the one to create the next Anakin. Like I don't want that on me. And this reliance on Jedi dogma is exactly that. It's this reliance. It's a way to kind of not pass the buck, but to absolve herself from having to do this. And so I would love it if it's revealed that she never really believed what she was saying, but now that it's come to this, and she's presented with this based on what she's seen, she now feels the weight that the Jedi felt in having to train these generations. And I think that you could tell some really interesting stories, if that's the route that they went.
Mm. Yeah, like if any other character, I wouldn't be so worried. But I feel like Ahsoka's kind of been since like season 4, season 5 of Clone Wars. She's kind of been like the best of us in a way. And by the end of Rebels, where she's like Ahsoka the White with her staff and her cloak, it feels like she feels like the ideal. Like she has arrived at what the Jedi should be. And maybe I just misread that final scene of Rebels, but that's kind of how it seemed. And so to find her so flawed, it's kind of a whiplash for me at least. But yeah, I don't think we should spend too much more time on it because we just don't have enough information to actually come to any kind of conclusion. So let's move on. So Grogu, Baby Yoda has a name, which I'm not going to use because he's Baby Yoda. Like it's too late. Just like I'm never going to call Mando Din Djarin. It happened too late. He's already got a name. How'd y'all feel about that?
I kind of like that they didn't hype up the reveal. It came and went, and I also like that it wasn't this big joke. Like it's the most just like regular Star Wars kind of name, like Grogu.
Mm-hmm.
It's just this name. Like the reveal feels very unaware of like the culture around Baby Yoda and everything. So I thought that was really funny, and I like that it's such a normal kind of like not big kind of name. Like it fits in,
and it sounds weird enough to be a part of Yoda's species. Like
yeah, exactly. Like
it's
that
not
kind of
Luke.
yeah, it's the 2-syllable 4-letter name. Like it works. Um, so are we like on the subject of baby? Are we gonna get into like our favorite Baby Yoda moment?
Might as well.
Because mine revolves around my favorite Baby Yoda moment is just the way he kind of lights up when his name is used by Mando.
You stole mine, you jerk.
Well, no, that's to me. It's the obvious one. Just
yeah.
The quick turning head, like mouth open, kind of like vague smile, wide eyes. Just every time it's new, like there's that immediate connection. Because you think about the way they interact all the time, there's very much like halfway conversation happening between he and I will try to use the name Grogu. I'm gonna force it. Between he and him, like it's been this kind of like there's never really a lot of eye contact, and he always seems only like vaguely aware of the conversation, what he's being told and stuff, and for like the use of the name and that immediate like snap to attention and like engagement. It's just both times it happened, it was like audible laughter. I really loved it.
Yeah. Well, I guess for my favorite Baby Yoda moment, that I'll do the where Michael Bean asks, "What is that thing?" "I keep it around for luck." He's just wearing it.
That was great.
Has he worn it in the bag like that before? I feel like, I don't know. Maybe I feel like he has, but I never just noticed. I never stood out to me just how freaking adorable it is until now.
Yeah.
I think it looked different because he was kind of like he's got the cloak draped around him and he's just peeking his head out.
Yeah, I loved like every single little moment where like every now and then he would just like peek his head out a little bit or like go back and hide again.
So now we should probably talk a little bit about Dave Filoni and what he brought to this. I find it kind of, actually, sorry, we missed your favorite Baby Yoda moment, Drew.
I can't believe that, man. So yeah, for me, since you took like some of the best moments, I also really liked how the episode starts off with him trying to take the little ball thing on the console in the cockpit of the ship. Because it's just been like this running gag throughout the entire show so far, where he keeps wanting to take that. I still don't even know what it is. But I just thought that was really funny, and then I thought it was also great how they used that to connect the Mando to Baby Yoda.
It shows that he understands him.
Yeah. So yeah, I just thought that was like really funny. I love the usage that they have of that joke.
So yeah, going back to Dave Filoni, I think as with his previous episodes, I find his what he brings a bit of a mixed bag. I think he's improved a bit. As a director, it's kind of interesting. He almost has like some George Lucas things going where he's so ambitious, and like the world he creates and some of the shots and sequences he's going for are really pretty impressive just from a conceptual standpoint. Also, it feels like whenever he's shooting people, it's really awkward and it's like he has these massive, gorgeous CGI shots, and then whenever he gets close, it feels like the volume is crushing him, and like he's the one who feels to suffer the most from shooting in this tiny little room, particularly in the scenes in the woods, where like the lighting was a little like the walls were dimmer and there was less color and saturation than the characters. So like whenever it was just Baby Yoda, Ahsoka, and Amando in the woods, you could just see the wall, and it just felt like they were shooting in front of a wall with projections on it. Also, like whenever the action happened, there was a thing he did where whenever Ahsoka was fighting, he would do like these little speed ramps or remove frames from motions to make it appear like it's going faster. And I hate that technique so much. It feels really cheap, and it's something that a lot of fan films do. Like when they're trying to do action, like they don't either have the money or the technical know-how, so they gotta cheat it and make it look faster. And whenever the fighting was happening, it felt like a really, really, really well-produced fan film, which isn't really ever a feeling you want in Star Wars action. Like, it wasn't terrible, but maybe I'm sure a lot of people didn't even notice, but me as someone who's really interested in filmmaking, does a bit of it myself, it really stood out to me just how kind of awkward a lot of the direction could be whenever like he was actually dealing with people. Whenever he was dealing with big things, big shots, it looked really good. I don't know. Did you all notice any of that? Did that bother you at all?
I didn't really know. Like, I get what you're saying. And like there was in the beginning of the episode, when Ahsoka just starts like slaughtering all those people. There was a moment where they like kind of. It reminded me of the Evil Dead.
I was waiting for my turn, because that's exactly what it felt like to me.
It reminded me of Evil Dead, and I think it was intentional. I think like the opening was meant to have almost this horror feel to it. Where they did that, like he did this technique where he like sped it up and like zoomed like really fast.
The demon cam.
Yeah. Like, and I guarantee that was intentional, and I actually really liked that. I don't know like
Mhm.
how most people would have felt about it, but like it kind of like added this layer of like, oh, these people are like they have like this sense of dread because there's just this what they think is probably some like witch or like sorcerer just like slaughtering them, and they don't know where she is, and like she just keeps appearing for like a second, and you just see her like silver blades just pop out for a second to like kill the next target, and then she disappears again.
I love that technique of disappearing as she turns the blades off and melt into the fog.
Yeah, like
Like,
it just
and I want to be clear, like the concepts behind all these sequences are so cool. It's
mhm.
just some of the more technical executions that's holding it
Yeah,
up for
but
me.
for me, I felt like overall this was a major step up compared to his episode in season one.
He,
Um,
he had two.
or did he? I
Yeah,
don't remember.
the pilot and the gunslinger.
Oh, you're right. I didn't realize he did the pilot too. But yeah, anyways, I think it was a major step up from his stuff in season one. And I think just given more experience and stuff, I think he could get to the point. I don't think, at least not for a long while, he'll get to the point where like I'm like, okay, he should definitely do a feature film like most people are saying.
Hmm.
But I definitely could see him doing some more live action TV stuff if he's just given more and more experience. Because like you were saying, that some of the concepts he has were great. Like another part that I have is the magistrate battle, which really felt like a samurai, like an old school samurai film,
Hmm.
where they were along the sides of like this long like garden area,
Yeah.
um, and like he has like I can see like he has a vision, and
Yeah.
I just think with more experience, he definitely could bring something to the table in live action, in my opinion.
Yeah, the transition from the dead world outside to the green living garden on the inside, like there's so many cool things happening.
Oh yeah.
Is that sound coming from your side, James?
Yeah. Sorry, it's
Uh,
Joseph.
yeah. So, do you have any thoughts on Filoni's contributions?
Yeah, so I definitely found it to be a good step up from his season one stuff. I'm with you in that it's like I want him to reach the point to where he is directing like maybe even a live action film at some point. It's because I definitely think he has the potential to get better, which we've already seen. At least for me, I definitely thought like because I was with you. We talked about episode one of season one of Mandalorian, and there were some weird kind of there's some awkwardness in some of the blocking and in the editing, and I
Hmm.
found that to be much less the case this time. But again, like I every when you look at a bunch of Star Wars groups, everybody's saying like hand him the keys to the kingdom, and let him direct all of the future movies. I'm like, no, we've they're good, but there has to be an understanding that we can always get better. And now, like most people are just saying, like he's arrived, he's perfect, and all of this.
Yeah, and it's like when you
Listen,
look,
I'm Dave Filoni, like fan club number one member.
absolutely.
Like I
Yeah.
I adore him, but like I still you can tell he has room to grow as a live action director,
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
and a lot of the issues. I will say most of my issues were actually contained, which is weird because it's not weird because the introduction, like you said, conceptually is awesome, and I can absolutely like forgive certain technical things to be able to enjoy how cool it is. And it's not like he dropped the ball entirely. There are a lot of cool moments in that first scene, but most of my issues were kind of contained to that initial thing. I thought Evil Dead as well, but it wasn't like a positive. I absolutely love the Evil Dead, especially the first one, which uses that cam so often. But to me, it's because it's like this is a cool effect that a guy with like no budget relied on to do this, and I love that kind of schlocky, low budget gore fest stuff, and I like those effects because just like I associate it with this genre I like, and I think they're cool, fun tools that they use. But especially like in my mind, they are very much associated to these are guys with no money out there, like just having a blast with like gore effects and stuff.
Yeah.
I associate it with a budget, and so to see something that feels so consistently found in cheaper films in the middle of like a Star Wars action scene, that it felt pretty jarring to me.
Yeah.
And then just the action itself, like I think Gabe, you said, like it feels like every now and then there's just like a frame or two like cut out, where it feels like a lot of the action, it's not like there needed to be a whole other move or this or that. It felt like this whole thing needed to last maybe just a hair longer. Everything felt like it was moving at a clip maybe too fast, or something felt a bit missing. Something felt a bit too quick about it. But all that to say, I actually really, I didn't really have the same issue with like the forest scene, like with them in the woods talking and stuff. At least no more than most of these, because a lot of the time I'll feel like I can, if I'm intentionally trying, like I can kind of make out the outlines of where set extension starts and stuff. But because they kind of had the firelight as this central thing attracting your eyes, I thought it was a decent use of the setup they had, and I actually weirdly, no, not weirdly, but I really liked the third act. I thought most of the action there was actually handled pretty well. I like the samurai battle and everything, and like the way they had the droids kind of combing through the area. So most of it I really did like, but uh, I'm holding out hope that he continues to get better, which I think will be justified.
Yeah, the thing for me is that the movies so far have been the absolute height, the best of what blockbuster filmmaking can be, whether it's Abrams, Johnson, Edwards, Howard, like the things, the sequences they build, the vision they have, it is like blockbusters don't get better. Yeah. And he's not there yet. He might be one day, but he's got some work to do. But to bring this to some positives for Filoni, I remember when we reviewed The Gunslinger on Franchise Fatigue with James, I said that his writing felt richer than Favreau's, and oh boy, is that true for this episode. Like, there's 10 minutes in the middle of this episode where characters just sit around and quietly talk about things and life and being human. And oh my gosh, where has this been on the show?
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, especially whenever we talked about that in The Gunslinger, it's kind of put this thing in the back of my mind that's made me aware of that. And again, it's not always a problem. I like these tightly structured, fast-paced things where dialogue and it's all very efficient in the approach. But it's been nice. Did Favreau also write the one with Bo-Katan?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, because in that one we've got a lot more dialogue, but again, and this also isn't really a problem, but so much of that is very much like driving plot. Here's the next mission. Here's why we need you to do this. So a lot of time, even in the more like the less action driven episodes, there's still very much been this, I need this information, what can you tell me? Well, you need to go over here and I'm after this. And it's a lot of that. And in this one, we really are, like, we're sitting around, we're talking about his name, we're talking about the Force, we're just kind of existing with each other for a bit. And it really starts to stand out when you don't have that for so long.
Yeah. And like if this show is gonna be like this show feels at a crossroads with all the setups they've been doing these last 3 episodes. Like, if it's gonna continue to be the serialized and the episodic fun adventure of the week, then I think Favreau's writing is pretty adequate. But if it's trying to evolve into something more serialized with a bigger story, I think Filoni needs to take over writing. Because Favs, I love you, man, but his scripts are so basic and so sparse, and only dialogue is just like vital plot information, and like need a bit more, I think. I again got to come back to the overall vision of this planet. It's probably my favorite location that the show has had so far. It's just the visuals, the green glow, the burned down trees, the sound design, where everything just feels like it's so quiet and muted, but not in a way that spells like, oh, peace and contentment. It's like, no, death and just death and like things forgotten. Like it's so oppressive, and I think Ludwig Göransson's score does a lot in that way as well.
Yes.
This is the first episode where I really noticed the score and how much it was playing and building that just the atmosphere where it's quiet, but in all the wrong ways. And it feels so oppressive, which makes that transition when you go into the inner sanctum, like, oh my gosh, green life.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's one of the moments that really stood out to me was whenever he first steps off the ship and we're just kind of panning around as we see those huge monsters in the background, and you've got the low thuds of their footsteps and like the creaking of trees as they brush past them and they chew on them, and then like even when you take all that out, I feel like if you were to just isolate the sound, it is just like this low kind of hum that just feels off. Like it sounds like what death sounds like if it had a sound. Like just there's no birds, there's no bugs, there's none of the stuff that spells life. There's also not just the entire absence of sound either. And then like the sound design itself just kind of takes on a lighter tone when you step through that, and you've got the kind of serene quality there. So yeah, all of that I thought was really cool. And then just talking about like the overall vision, like I love the production design. I love the way the village looked, especially like from the aerial views where you just see all of these lumps going on, and it's you can tell it's all that the tops of all of these houses and buildings and stuff.
Yeah.
And it all fed into what felt very much like this kind of Star Wars samurai feel.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think that the shot of her walking towards them at the very end, like after she's through the gate and we've got the camera behind her, I believe it feels almost like a complete recreation of one of like the famous shots from Yojimbo. So it's got this very much like lone samurai enters the town, and
Favreau's
about the vibe and aesthetic.
Filoni has really played with those samurai motifs. Like think about the Darth Maul Obi-Wan duel in Rebels. Like he loves that kind of entire thing. Did you have anything to add to that, Drew? Because I think we've kind of gone over time. Any last thoughts on that?
I guess to play on to the whole like samurai theme that he has going, just one quick side note about that. I really liked how when they had this samurai duel between Ahsoka and the magistrate, they also, in like to mirror that, they had the whole classic Western standoff between Mando and I can't remember the actor's name.
Michael
the
Biehn.
Life of me. Yeah. I loved how it like mirrored and kind of contrasted, and like they were going on at the same time, and it's like it's just a really cool way to have like these two classic kind of themes playing off of one another at the same time.
Because it's cool that these genres, like the Western and the samurai, have always been closely associated with each other as well. And I didn't think about that until you had put it in the messenger, but that was also like when you pointed out, it's very much there, because especially with Ahsoka's battle there, we've got the classic like side view with the profiles of each character. And then with them, it's the hand and the gun holster, both separated by like 30, 40 feet. It's the two kind of immediate visual images that you get from both kind of genres juxtaposed with each other.
Yeah.
And I really loved Michael Biehn in it as well. Like I like the dialogue and I liked his performance. Just could be your side, could be my side. He had a vibe about him that I really liked. And it's funny. I just watched Terminator for the first time, so I know this guy.
Yeah, we'll be talking about him very soon. So yeah, we could talk about this episode for another hour easily, but we're gonna wrap it up now. So yeah, if you want to hear more thoughts on this episode from us, probably you can come visit us on our Franchise Fatigue podcast, and we'll have a long episode talking about all season 2 of the Mando in a couple weeks. And you can check out our episode on our 2 episodes on season 1 as well. So yeah, also come join us over on the Outer Rim, a Star Wars group on Facebook. It's dedicated to positive and constructive Star Wars discussion. People are loving The Mandalorian so far, so join us for that. Obviously, like the video and subscribe to the channel on YouTube, and we will be back next week to talk about whatever awesome episode they have for us. See ya.